And welcome to Reanimated Redemption, the series where we take a poorly received horror film, review it, and tell you whether it should be brought back to life or buried forever. I'm your host, Jeremy, and today we have an extremely special guest, one that's been in the works for a little bit now. So, everyone, give it up for Cody.
Hello.
Super excited to have you on. Um, I'm trying to do a little thing here where I get different YouTubers on to talk about these types of films.
hmm
And today's subject is An American Werewolf in Paris. Released in 1997, it's about three friends that go to Paris for an adventure in, I guess, daredevil, parkour, stunts that get mixed up with a werewolf cult who can transform at will due to a new drug. So this is supposed to be a direct sequel to the classic American Werewolf in London.
hmm
However, there's not a lot of similarities. So, story versus execution. I think it does have a solid premise. However, going back on a rewatch on this, I wrote down this feels like an 80s ABC movie of the week.
Okay.
Um, when it comes to the acting and who they got in this, like Tom Everett Scott, he wasn't a bad choice. It's just the way he comes off and plays Andy seems to be whiny, beggy,
hmm
very insecure of himself, bumbling around a lot. And the thing about this story is that they try to do too many slapstick preteen comedy jokes.
hmm
A couple of them land for me, but outside of that, it seemed like the story got away from them trying to be funny and a gimmick.
Yeah.
So, what's your impression on the story versus how they executed this?
I think it does hold some similarities to the original, where you have a werewolf attack and there's one survivor. Well, I guess in this one there's two survivors, but you have a survivor and then you have one friend that dies that essentially hangs around as a ghost and is trying to like guide him away from all that stuff. So there's that little tie in there. That's really the only resemblance. The first one is the American Werewolf in London. The original one is a horror comedy, and I think they try to do this one too. But the comedy is geared more towards like that late '90s, early 2000s, like sex comedy kind of vibe about it. Before it really hit its stride with things like American Pie and everything in 1999. So it was like a few years too early before we were all kind of into that. Where they're having like the sex points and things like that, or you get the balloon condom gag, and so it's much more that style comedy, which either works for you or it doesn't. As far as the story, what I've always liked about the story in this one is that you have that whole like the drug or whatever that they find that was supposed to be a cure for lycanthropy, but it actually like initiates it instead. And I like the fact that there's like a little cult or whatever that's using that to murder people, and in the way that it's eventually used in the third act to turn him into a werewolf so that he can get the upper hand on the bad guy. And I like those elements to it. I don't mind the romance so much. I think just because I like Julie Delpy, and I think Tom Everett Scott is good with her. The thing that's weird about his character is that, like you said, like they're all playboys, and they tell you right at the beginning that he's got the most points. So obviously he's done a lot of playboy shenanigans himself, and then all of a sudden he's like this hopeless romantic out of nowhere. And
Right.
so it kind of turns his personality on a dime, and that, for the first half of the film, that's all he is, just like he's just infatuated with this French girl, to the point where it's just kind of bizarre. So there's definitely some weird pieces of execution to it as far as the story, but I'm pretty forgiving on this one. So I think that overall, The biggest negative that you have to this is that it's tied itself to what many consider the greatest werewolf film of all time, which is American Werewolf in London. If it was just like a werewolf movie that came out in 97, I think it'd have a better reputation, but it's that like sequel that people don't want to acknowledge.
And that's another reason I chose this film. So I go to a lot of horror conventions, and I have seen the original cast of American Werewolf in London, and you get those hardcore fans, and they trash this film.
Yeah.
They act like it never was made. They erase it from their memory. And while it's not like my favorite sequel of all time, there was a lot of elements of this I love.
Mm.
I can remember seeing this in theaters with my dad to a packed out theater. And it
Same.
seemed like that crowd was in the movie too. They were laughing with it, jumping with it. Even though the effects for the time, I guess as a kid, I was more forgiving
Mhm.
than going back now.
Yeah, it's aged pretty bad.
It's aged
That's
horribly.
again to tie itself to the legacy of what many call the greatest werewolf transformation and some of the best special effects of all time, where they literally created the Oscar category because of that film.
Right.
And then you followed up with a film that, you know, in 1997 doesn't look that bad. In 1998 onward, it looks pretty bad.
And if you watch this thing in 4K, you don't need to do that.
Mhm.
It's blaring how bad the effects are. And what gets on my nerves about that is that they built an entire puppet for it with an actual person in it. And the close-up shots, they use that. And to me, that's the most menacing version than the CGI stuff they get to try to show like the full body of the creature every time. But surprisingly, this film was made for $25 million. It took in 26.5 million. So technically it's in the green. Technically it made its money back.
Mm.
But it wasn't the biggest hit that they wanted. And it could be because I found some plot holes I never really paid attention to. For instance, in the beginning, she's on the Eiffel Tower, going to jump during a full moon after she's already turned before and attacked her family. I don't understand why she didn't turn when that moon was full in front of him on top of the Eiffel Tower. So that immediately bugged me. And with the movie essentially taking place in a 72-hour period, them saying they love each other and they care for one another doesn't seem warranted. They don't know each other.
I mean, I feel the same way about the romance in the first film, honestly. Both of them kind of have the same problem to me, where it's like it's this weekend romance, but you're supposed to like really buy into the love side of it, and it's like it's a fling. You know what I mean? Like they get married at the end of this movie, so they went the extra step where the first one had that like tragic ending of, you know, I love you, and then he gets shot. But yeah, both of them kind of have that same problem to me, where it's very movie romance, not real life romance. Like I've never met anybody or experienced it myself where you fall head over heels with somebody in a couple of days.
And the two friends he has, Brad and Chris, I actually enjoyed their characters more than I did Andy's.
That's fair.
Because unfortunately,
you got more personality.
Oh yeah, especially Chris. He seems to be the smart one of the group, trying to talk him out of everything. Even when he's locked in the cellar with the crippled werewolf, he seems to make the smartest moves. Just get out, don't mess around.
Yeah.
But him coming back, Brad coming back and haunting him, I enjoyed every bit of that. Even him surprising him with his head in the dish, because even though he's dead, he still wants to prank his friend.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed, I can't remember her name, but the female
Julie Bowen.
When she was so insufferable when she was alive, but when she was dead, that was just some of the funniest things. The eyeball coming out, trying to direct him into traffic.
Yeah.
But that speaks to another plot hole. Did she break her bond when he was cured, or is she just in limbo?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember. Do they actually say that they're cured?
If you eat
I,
the heart of the one that turned you,
that's correct. Okay, so yeah, he's good, but his wife now isn't. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That is something that by the end of it, they don't really give you an answer to. Like, if he's cured, is she good, or does he have to die? And she's, just going to be this lingering spirit in the background the whole time. I'm not sure.
and they do leave it to where it's the same werewolf that bit Andy is the one that bit Julie's character. So when he accidentally shoots her at the end, his
Hmm.
answer to help her is to cure her of the one thing that would heal her wounds. Like, I know how
you
to
make
save
you make
you.
valid points.
But she even tells them our metabolism is faster, we heal faster.
Hmm.
Okay, let me shoot you 3 times and then cure you and make you human.
Yeah.
That's how much I love you.
Hmm.
So the parts for me that really work about this film, I love the whole nightclub thing,
Hmm.
gathering all the tourists in and slaughtering them.
Yeah, I love that too.
I even enjoyed the water fountain scene in the graveyard, even though it's CGI. I love that scene. It coming out. It has the wolf thing where it's shaking itself, getting the water off. And I think we had a lot more POV vision
Hmm.
from the wolf's point of view than we did in the original,
Yeah.
which I really enjoyed that. I really love the cat and mouse game they do with each one of its victims.
Hmm.
But to you, what was something about this film that really did not work for you?
I think it's just moments of the humor. I think for a film where they're trying to go for that more edgy, late '90s sex comedy vibe to the comedy, they also have very goofy, slapsticky stuff. Like I always remember that one scene that I can't help but laugh at, and I'm not laughing at it in a good way, where he gets her shoe and he's like, "You forgot this," and she's just standing there, and then walks back, and it's like one of those like, frolicking through the flowers type romance thing, but it's just her walking through the hospital, and he's got this goofy grin. So you got that. The the balloon condom thing is fine, but that whole exchange during that meal is very awkward, and so I think it's just, yeah, some of the humor set up in the first half or so of the film. Once he's a werewolf and we're just going
Yes.
through everything with that, I think the film is a lot stronger. It's just everything in the first half where they're trying to be a little more comedic than horror, where they show kind of their weaknesses. I think the horror side of it's actually really good.
The horror side is actually good. This is one of the werewolf movies. As a kid, I remember being scared of like lions and tigers and stuff because I would always picture these werewolves,
Mhm.
how aggressive they were, and definitely how massive they are too.
Yeah.
And to the effects, like no, it doesn't hold up, but there are certain effects moments in this to me that still work.
Mhm.
When she's looking up at the moon and her face is changing like that and she's twitching. That was a really great effect. I
Mhm.
think that was executed great. Um, but other than that, like it's hard for me to be like, oh, this held up as much as I really wanted it to, as
Mhm.
much as the nostalgia was for me. I couldn't get past some of the faults anymore. And again, it's been 15 years since I've watched it. So going into it, I was like, I'm going to love it as much as I did.
Yeah, I always kind of categorize it as a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters as a kid. I loved it as a kid. I loved it as a teenager when I first bought the DVD, when I found it at like Media Play or something like that, and watched it all the time. As an adult, I think the last time I watched it was 2 years ago when I was ranking a bunch of vampire and werewolf films, and I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. Like, again, they compare it to the huge legacy of London, and by comparison make it like there's nothing in this movie that's even close to redeemable, and I think that's really unfair. But it's not without significant flaws. It's a film that I have fun with. I think there's some really cool ideas. As I said, the drug, the whole nightclub aspect of, let's lock all the Americans in and take them out because they're in foreign land, which there was even an air of that in the first one where they're going off to the slaughtered lamb and they're kind of the outsiders, and so there's elements of it that I think are well done. I like most of the actors. It's just yeah, it's the comedy, it's the badly aged CGI, and tying itself to what many call the greatest werewolf film of all time. That it's kind of its undoing.
And also the soundtrack, like it has a
Love
great
the soundtrack.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
I love it. I own it. I have it signed by a couple of the bands on the soundtrack.
Hmm.
But the way they use it in the film is like you're going from this high angsty beat to now we're going to go into bush and go
Hmm.
really down. And it just goes kind of all over the place for me. Even though
Hmm.
it's a great soundtrack, the way they used it, high 1 minute, low the next, that kind of threw me out. I didn't know why. Certainly when he's being chased out of the house both times,
Hmm.
they use that. It sounds like a Sex Pistols theme. It that I didn't understand why they did it that way.
Yeah.
So some facts about this film. One, they did try and tie it to the original. The original script was Andy was going to be the nephew of the werewolf in the first one, and
Hmm.
he was coming to investigate what happened to his uncle and would have found the cult. The next iteration of it was he finds the cult, and you find out the werewolf from the original that bit the guy was from this cult, and that was going to be
That'd
the
have been
only
cool.
tie-in. And I wish they had done that. I wish we had got more of the cult, who they are. I wish we had got to see more of the drug in work because
Mm.
we get it in the third act. But if we had that throughout the whole film, that would have been like, we don't need a full moon for this.
Yeah.
And it could have confused everybody. I think you should have had like werewolves in the daytime. That would have been a huge menacing threat.
Hmm.
But this was actually Tom Everett Scott. This was his first time ever going outside the U.S., which is why he signed on for it. He really wanted to see Paris,
Hmm.
but he also did all of his own stunts. So when you see him running through the street, jumping on that bus, that was really him, and they had to do it like 2 or 3 times. I don't know if that was a budget constraint that he, as a new actor, had to do his own stunts, but watching a review with him, he said it's the most fun he's ever had on a set. But yet you get to Julie, who does not like this film and will not talk about it. And I don't understand that. I don't understand what was embarrassing. Why is a blemish to her? I don't get that. Oh, how do you feel about that?
I find it kind of annoying when actors try to pretend that past movies, especially predominantly horror films, just like don't exist in their career, even if they're bad. Like, I love the fact that you have somebody that's like totally, the A list doesn't really exist anymore, but pseudo A list as like Matthew McConaughey, who will openly talk about in a loving way, like his experience of, signing on and doing Texas Chainsaw 4. And then you have, like Jennifer Aniston that won't talk about Leprechaun. And then you
Will
got this
not.
one. And it's just like, it's frustrating to me. It's like that is where you came from. And there are fans of those movies. You can say that, like, you can jokingly act like, yeah, that's certainly not my best day in the office, but just to refuse to talk about it and act like that's not a part of your journey is it's weird to me. And it's probably because it's always directed towards horror films.
Like someone like George Clooney will make fun of himself and but talk about Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
And
That's
Batman
what I
Robin.
love. He will always own up to that.
Oh yeah.
So, favorite scene out of the entire film?
Um, it's one of two. It's either the nightclub when all the werewolves start to turn and rip everybody apart, or I like the final confrontation between Tom Everett Scott and the villain in the subway, where they're fighting and then he ends up plunging the thing into himself. I remember in the theater being like, "Oh!" Like, he's gonna turn into a werewolf and rip this guy in half, and I've always liked that. I've always liked that scene.
I have to agree. Like
Mhm.
always, even on the rewatch, that that subway scene, him getting plunged and running after him while he's transforming.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And that's why
Yeah.
I wish there would have been more of that in this film.
Mm-hmm.
What is the absolute worst scene that when it comes up, you're like, ugh?
The shoe scene. You forgot this. That whole thing.
For me,
No, she's getting away.
that one's hard. And the scene where he goes through her door with the shoe
Mm-hmm.
and he's just banging on it, ringing the bell. It's like, dude, you're coming off as a stalker.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know her name. You know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we're supposed to believe that he's just this gullible, all caring guy. And that's why he can throw everything about himself away for someone that is clearly not stable or sane from the onset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love his friends. They're literally telling him, listen, Prince Charming, you're coming off too strong. You're coming off too hard. Maybe you need to let this go. Maybe she's not okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I gotta have her. Okay, I wish we had built this up just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um, so, in your opinion, because I don't like to go very like long with these, and like
Mm-hmm.
many people have broke these films down, but this is an opportunity to be like, should people bring this film back to life and give it a chance and watch it, pass it on to other people? Or should it be just like people at horror cons treat it? It should just be buried and forgotten.
No, I think it's worth people checking out. I think that too many people like there's a lot of movies out there that fairly kind of get that treatment of like it's that awful sequel to that classic. And so many people they'll grow up, they'll hear the reputation of it, or they know it's just like a pop culture consciousness to stay away from that one, like Exorcist 2, and they don't bother with it. I don't think this is one of those movies. Is it as good or as impactful as London? No, of course not. But if you watch it just on its own merits and not as like a sequel to London, I think it's a fun movie. And I don't think it's, when you go through all these franchises and you look at like that awful sequel like Exorcist 2 or, Texas Chainsaw 4, or that the people just say, hey, don't even bother with it. Freddy's dead. I don't think this is anywhere close to that category.
And I would definitely have to say it should be brought back to life.
Mhm.
People should, to what you just said, people should check it out and let it stand on its own.
Mhm.
Don't compare it to the other one because it's going to lose.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything you do versus the original, you've already lost.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think people should give this a second chance, should really appreciate what they were trying to do. Even if you don't agree with some of the scenes, even if you think the CGI is crap, what they were trying to do was actually something original that
Mhm.
set it apart. So I would definitely suggest everyone check it out. You can pretty much see it anywhere. It's free on YouTube. It's on most streaming apps that are free. So
Mhm.
there's no excuse not to watch it. So with all that said, what are other films that are like guilty pleasures to you that most people just think are garbage?
My go-to answers are The Happening, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. Not a good film, but if you watch it as a comedy, I think it's pretty awesome. Like it's unintentionally great in those ways. And there's a film that Wes Craven made called Deadly Friend that is pretty objectively awful. But again, if you watch it to have fun with it, I think it's really fun. Or if you watch it with an obnoxious friend, you can have a really good time with it. It's a film that was meant to be like this heartwarming coming of age sci-fi romance movie, and they're like, "You're the Nightmare on Elm Street guy. You need to add like gore and kills into this." And so the movie is just tonal whiplash all over the place, but it's so bad that it's great.
And usually my guilty pleasure, I know it gets a lot of hate, but Halloween 5.
Mm,
I don't know why. I don't know if it was because it was always on for some reason when I was a kid. I just have a soft spot. Yes, it's not good. There's a lot of problems with it, but it's just one I don't mind. And given the franchise and what's happened recently, I actually have grown to like Halloween Resurrection.
Hmm.
Not the end of it, but parts of it. At least they tried to keep it an isolated story.
Yeah.
I don't agree with how it opened. I don't agree with how it ended, but the middle part of it, you know, I don't like Halloween ends by any means. So compared to that, I'm like, I don't mind watching this anymore as much as I have.
Okay.
But thank you so much for being on. Thank you for reviewing this film with me. Hopefully, I can have you on another time, talk about another poorly received horror film.
Yeah. Thank you
This
for having me.
is no problem. And as of recording this, it's my birthday. So this has been the greatest
Oh.
birthday gift I could give to myself.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. But I appreciate you. And thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you guys around. And Cody, right quick, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, just search my name, Cody Leach, spelled just like that right there. And if you want to type in like a username, it's that with capital YT on the end of it is usually my username for most social medias. And then Cody Leach reviews on TikTok.
All right, you heard it. Go follow them if you haven't. I'm pretty sure you guys already do. But I see you around, guys. Thank you so much.